Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living right here in Napa Valley. I know we're online, but we're bringing in all of the community here and bringing in and embracing you right where you are. We're just loving the opportunity to bring the service to you, and I want to begin with a little music here. Let's welcome Diego Garcia. All right.
All are welcome here. Lay your burdens down. All are welcome here. You're on solid ground. All are welcome here. We'll break our bread with you. All are welcome here. Help you find your truth. All are welcome here. 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 Lay your burdens down. All are welcome here. You're on solid ground. All are welcome here. We'll break our bread with you. All are welcome here. Help you find your truth. All are welcome here. All are welcome here. All are welcome here. All are welcome here.
Thank you, Diego. And it's true, all of you are welcome here. This is the time in our service we usually stand up and greet each other and give each other a handshake or a hug. So we just give you a virtual hug right now and bring you in with this love, and know that right where you are is a beautiful place, that there's a healing and a wholeness right where you are. We also, in this room, we have Kristen Moore here, our practitioner, who is doing some technical support, who will be giving you, if you want to say anything online on YouTube or Facebook, she's tracking those and can give you feedback or answer any questions. She's also here. We'll open us up in prayer and meditation in a few minutes. We also appreciate Alex Harris being here. He's doing the filming and the audio technical support also, so we appreciate him being here. As usual, we like to begin each service with our mission and vision statement. So if you will, for those who know it, otherwise you can just repeat after me. We are an inclusive community.
We are an inclusive community.
For spiritual growth and compassionate action.
For spiritual growth and compassionate action.
And our mission, we are co-creating a world.
We are co-creating a world
that works for everyone.
That works for everyone.
By living intentionally.
By living intentionally.
Loving unconditionally.
Loving unconditionally.
And seeing God in all people and all faiths.
By seeing God in all people and all faiths.
A glorious affirmation for all people in all of the world. So thank you for joining with us today. Joining in this affirmation of our vision and mission. We want to encourage you to continue to support our center financially, to continue our vision and mission, as well as there are many nonprofits here in the Valley or who are doing work to supporting people during these challenging times. Our donations, the donations you give, support those nonprofits, and our tithes and also your direct contributions to them do also. So thank you for your generous and giving hearts. And now we'll begin with the sacred part of our service.
Still my mind, be at peace. In my awakening, I release with my heart, free my soul. In my awakening, I am whole. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti.
So join me in taking a deep breath. Maybe one more of those. Settling into that place within us that remembers and knows the truth of oneness. The truth that there is only that one thing going on. That one source that we call Spirit. We call it God. We call it Mother, Father, Allah. It is the infinite and the absolute, the eternal, everywhere, everywhen, everyone. It is the only thing going on, regardless of what we call it or how we choose to embrace it. It is all that is. And this one thing is love and light. It is prosperity and wholeness. It is health and wellness. It is peace and abundance. And I know that because there is only this one thing going on, this I am presence, I know that each and every one of us is this I am presence. We are all of the love and the light, the abundance and the prosperity, the joy and the happiness, the health and the wholeness, and the peace of everything, everyone, and everywhere. And so I just know and affirm that this time that we have together is good and very good. I am so grateful for this center and for the technology that we have in place to be able to come together in this beautiful, connected way. I'm grateful for each and every person who is a part of this amazing community. And I am grateful for this time that we have together, knowing that it is absolutely blessed and perfect, that everyone hears exactly what they need to hear. What is said, what needs to be said is said, what needs to be done is done, and it is just perfect in every way for everyone. And so breathing all of that in, we continue to move deeper, entering into a time of shared meditation together from our homes through technology. Breathing deeply, going deeper into the silence. And taking one more deep breath together. I know that we are all always infinitely connected to one another and to everyone on the planet with our love and our light. We open to that. And so it is.
Kind friends all gather round. There's something I would say, that what brings us together here has blessed us all today. Love has made a circle that holds us all inside. We're strangers or as family, loneliness can't hide. You must give yourself to love, if love is what you're after. Open up your heart to the tears and laughter, and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. I've walked these mountains in the rain. I've learned to love the wind. I've been up before sunrise to watch the day begin. I always knew I'd find you, though I never did know how. But like sunshine on a cloudy day, you stand before me now. So give yourself to love, if love is what you're after. Open up your heart to the tears and laughter, and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. Love is born in fire. It's planted like a seed. Love can't give you everything, but it gives you all you need. Love comes when you're ready. Love comes when you're afraid. It will be your greatest teacher, the best friend you have made. So give yourself to love. Love is what you're after. Open up your heart to the tears and laughter, and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love. You must give yourself to love, if love is what you're after. Open up your heart to the tears and laughter, and give yourself to love. Give yourself to love.
Thank you, Diego. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think that's our challenge right now, is to give ourselves to love and not give in to the fear that might be there. This theme that we're starting in April, here it is, April. Welcome to April, is about the healing light. And the light is healing, and the healing is the light. And what's interesting, though, is it is when we go to think about the healing, is that we are requested and we are willing to stay in the dark, so to speak, to stay inside, to keep healthy, and it's it's more challenging to find the light. And this is Palm Sunday today, and particularly today we're talking about how the truth will set us free. The truth of this concerns about the virus have actually kept us more contained and not feeling free. Often in my talks, I talk about how fear is an acronym for false evidence appearing real. But the truth is there are some, although be it invisible, there are some real reasons to feel anxious and fearful. Not fearful necessarily, but concerned, and we need to take the necessary precautions, but at the same time, there may be a sense of dread or overwhelm, particularly when we see the numbers of people infected or the deaths rise, that our anxiety rises with that. But if we can separate, because there's a good thing about anxiety, by the way, anxiety promotes us to do what's necessary to keep ourselves safe. To do the hand washing and the precautions when we go with gloves and masks when we go into the shopping and things like this, or to get food to go. And there's a necessary part of that, but there's also a sense of dread, a sense of overwhelm that we can let go of because that doesn't serve us. And it is these spiritual tools that we begin to understand, we begin to if you've taken classes or in services that you remember, that allow us to be aware of what parts of this concern anxiety service and what doesn't, and to let go of those. And that's the truth that I'm talking about, the truth of capital T, which means it's a divine truth, not just the small truth, our small ego that wants to stay small, who wants to stay in fear to keep us from connecting on a deeper and more profound level. I also want to acknowledge, as I talk to community members, as I talk to some of us who've talked to other community members, as well talking to people out in the world beyond our community, that I just want to acknowledge the courage and the real heart that's going on out there, because I know these are challenging times. I know parents who are helping make sure their kids have fun and not be overly concerned with the worries of the world, and how to explain that to them. People who live alone, who feel more isolated. And what's interesting, this is a time that when we need people, I often say to people when they're struggling is to reach out to others, be a part of a community, be comforted by others. But this is the exact time when we are not supposed to do that, and we don't want to do that. We are to be social isolated, but it is both the solution and the problem at the same time when we can't feel this deeper connection from other people, this comfort from other people. So I encourage you to reach out on phone, on Zoom, on whatever ways you can. I'm glad you're joining with us today, because I know that there are other people who had what I would call pre-existing conditions. Their health was already compromised before this, and some who may be having symptoms of what may be the coronavirus, but they're not sure, or people that actually have it, or you may know somebody who is very sick, or concerns. There are even people I know that have lost somebody recently, and they can't have a public celebration of life service because they can't gather with people. And this is hard. I'm not suggesting it's not, and I want you to know that the practitioners and I are here for you, and that if you have any prayer request, Kristen will talk about a new prayer request form we have later on. There's a link on our website. Put the prayer request in the Facebook, or afterwards. We'll have a Zoom meeting. By the way, that's another way to connect after the service. We'll provide you with a Zoom link. Come into the Zoom room, and there's ways to privately ask for prayers to Kristen or myself. So be a part of that. That just like after the service, we have fellowship. It's usually out in the courtyard, but in this time it's on Zoom. So join us for that as well. At the same time, the tools that we talk about here give you the opportunity to stay on high ground in your thinking. That you'll notice when you're a little recessed now, it's a time when it's natural to feel a little less than optimal in your thinking. But as much as possible, transcend and rise up and feel connected with Spirit in that way. And I also know that we are Napa strong, that we have been resilient. We have moved through so many things, and I know individuals in this community have not only risen for themselves, but they've risen to help other people. And that may be frustrating for them too, because they don't know where to help. And we want to continue to encourage you to support nonprofits here in the Valley, and and do what you can, and take care of yourself too, so that we can be healthy and that we can rise above this. There will be plenty to do later on. I have found so much comfort in the Serenity Prayer that I know a lot of people in recovery use, but it goes beyond recovery in my mind to simply say, and it may be the best prayer we can offer right now, to God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. That alone may be the beginning of a powerful prayer. And then the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just to open up to Spirit and know that truth, to grant the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage and the power to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. A powerful, powerful prayer. I think there may be a time when we look back on this day. It may be a while before we do, but there will be a time when we look back on this day and maybe wish, as our schedules ramp up again, to think about, remember when I was sheltered in place and was bored? Well, that's gone, just to laugh about that a little bit. What's also interesting is this earth has literally taken a little break from our activity. The water is cleaner, the air is cleaner by our less commute, and they've actually measured the ambient seismic noise that's created by our trains and cars and vehicles, buses and trams and different things, that there's a 30 to 50% reduction in the ambient seismic noise that's on the surface of this planet. So we can literally just allow ourselves to relax a little more in this time. And it is an interesting time spiritually, because this is Palm Sunday. Usually it's we have greater attendance on Palm Sunday, as well as the next Sunday, Easter. And yet there's things that we can continue to focus on spiritually during this time, and maybe more so because we're not caught up in the commercial aspects of this time, of buying Easter eggs and Easter baskets and things like that. At the same time, next Sunday when we have an Easter service, I invite you to wear your Easter bonnets or your Sunday clothes that you would on Easter, and then show pictures of yourself. We're doing hashtags, if you know what those are, MyNVCSL, and you could do it today too, to show where you're sitting without preparation. Some people may not be willing to do that. You may still be in your pajamas, which is fine, but we can be part of this festivity. I know I look forward to this time of the year every year, because I love telling stories of Jesus and what he talked about. Now I follow the teachings of Jesus, but not necessarily the teachings about Jesus. I like to reframe Jesus in a different light, in a different life, in a different way, because I think that in some ways he needs rescuing from fundamentalism, that have told a story about him that was not his original intention. You've probably heard the phrase, you can take someone out of the country, but you can't take the country out of them. And meaning the country is the rural aspects of the United States, the country, farm nature of someone. But you could also say the same thing about a country of origin. If they're from Mexico or from the Netherlands or England or South Africa, that comes with them wherever they are, even if they live out of the country. And the same is true for Jesus, because he was a Jew. And to take his story and his teachings out of the Jewish theology, there's something missing from it. And it's important to put that context in it rather than making up all this stuff about fulfilling a prophecy or something that doesn't add up in my mind. And the truth is, his teachings in the context of Judaism, particularly the teachings of Jesus, of the Jews at that time, makes more sense. The other thing about Jesus is, I know that he was of great, high, deep consciousness. And so many people put him in the likes of Krishna, or of great spiritual leaders of our time, Muhammad, that had a higher frequency, Moses and different people like that. But I also compare him to people like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, Muhammad Gandhi, because really Jesus was a civil rights activist. He was a rebel against the current system of Jewish leadership, and that he was really a zealot in so many ways. If he was alive today, he would be in the middle of discussions about equal pay, equal treatment, immigration, asylum seekers, Black Lives Matters, Me Too movement. He would be in the middle of that because he believed in equality. He believed that there was no difference between people, no matter their socioeconomic status, their caste, their race, their culture, their orientation. None of that would be mattered to him then. It would matter to him now. And I think that's important to talk about because he saw himself as standing against the Jewish leaders at that time, the Pharisees and the Sadducees, who were really Roman Empire appointees. And their job, according to the Romans, was to make sure the Jews were kept quiet and not causing a problem. And as long as they didn't cause a problem, then the leaders were allowed to gain financially from their position as a Jewish leader. And they did so by, when they opened up the temple for animal sacrifices, the more money you paid, the closer into the inner sanctum of the temple you got to go. So according to them, that the greater favor you would have with God. And this is the story of Jesus coming into the temple and turning over the tables of the money changers that were taking this money for this animal sacrifice, because he said, you've turned the synagogue into a den of thieves. And instead he wanted the Jewish leaders and all people to have an authentic relationship, a close relationship with God, with Spirit, with Yahweh, that he called God Abba, which meant my father, not because he was his biological father, but because this was a term of endearment at that time, someone very close to him. And that's what he said, that all people can have this personal relationship. The same as Ernest Holmes said 2,000 years later, that we can all have this indwelling relationship with Spirit. So this is what he advocated for. So he was not wanting to overthrow the Roman Empire, but just to give space to the Jewish people not to be oppressed and suppressed, that they could have their own faith, their own religion, their own way of being close to Spirit. And he definitely fought against or stood against the Pharisees and the Sadducees, but above all, he was for this authentic relationship. And I think as we get to this day, this Palm Sunday, his ministry had grown so much. At first, he was wanting to keep it quiet because he didn't want to create problems with the Roman Empire, because he knew what would happen to zealots is they were imprisoned and sometimes even put to death. And so he often told his disciples after a miracle or a healing or a great teaching that people wanted to share about, he goes, just keep it within house for now. There will be a time that we'll be able to share it out loud. And Palm Sunday was that day. His movement had gone to the tipping point, Malcolm Gladwell's term for tipping point, because it had gone over the top, that it suddenly, his teaching had become beyond Jesus, beyond any one person, any small group of disciples or followers, that it had suddenly become blossomed out. And when the Jewish leaders told him to be quiet, to, don't attract the attention of the Roman Empire, just settle down, Jesus said, you can't stop this. Even if I told everybody to be quiet, the rocks themselves would begin to sing. It was in every cell, every being, the voice, the truth that were setting people free. It was there. It no longer was about him. He realized he could be out now. He might die. He probably was going to die. But the consciousness was such that it would continue. So powerful was as a whole religion was built on it. And yet, there are so many different variations of Christian theology, and even organizations like our own that take the teachings of Jesus along with other sacred teachings and teach about love, because at the core of his teachings was to love God and to love each other and love ourselves. And so we moved forward this time to allow this truth of his teaching, the truth that's not just about Jesus, though it's universal teachings, because that's what Jesus was saying. It's been spread now. It's out in everything. We can tap into it. We can tap into it. You might have all sorts of thoughts about Jesus. I know some of you are like, oh, I don't do Jesus. And others you go, yeah, I love Jesus. And either way, it doesn't matter, because this is a universal teaching we're talking about that we can tap into. Now, I'm going to talk a little more about Jesus today because it just happens to be Palm Sunday. And I'm going to talk about the way he talked about God, the way he talked about Abba, his dear Father, his close and personal relationship, because I think there's some truth that we can pull from that, and we can open up to Spirit in a greater way. So there's three ways I want to talk about today. And the first is to remember the Sabbath. Now, the Sabbath is a Jewish word for a time. It is not a location. God knows we're not in a location today, but we're in a Sabbath. It's a spiritual practice of remembering, of recognizing, of realizing, a dedication. And it's this tipping point that Jesus had, that he was talking about the universal presence that we can all come into. So he triumphantly rode in on a donkey into Jerusalem, celebrating the truth of Spirit and its universal knowingness. So we too can set up a spiritual practice, a Sabbath of proclaiming and revealing the truth, not only in participating in our community today, but on a daily basis, just to dedicate a few minutes to finding the peace, establishing that peace, and knowing, as we talked about, the wisdom between what we need to let go of, what we need to change, and to be in this relationship with Abba, with our personal sense of Spirit within us. And what we know is that what we experience within us becomes true around us. So in the Sabbath, we take time to experience peace and love and joy. And we know that which is within us, the heaven that we experience within us, as it is here, it is so around us. The Talmud, the teachings of the Jews, says every blade of grass has its angel that bends over it and whispers, grow, grow. So it is with Spirit within us that bends over us and whispers, grow, grow. Allow yourself to feel this deeper connection. So the second thing that I appreciate about Jesus is that he talked about cleansing our mind, body, and soul. Now in the Jewish culture, the Talmud, the Old Testament, Leviticus has so many rules in it. During the time of the Jewish community, those were very important, not for morality. They're misinterpreted as moral code, but they were codes of cleanliness and community, and the importance of that to keep healthy and to build the community. And it was all about that. When Jesus came along, he said that there's a new covenant now. That was the old covenant. There's a new covenant that is about loving spirit with all our heart, all our soul, all our strength, all our mind, all of us, and to loving one another as ourselves, to love our neighbor. And this was the new covenant. And what's interesting about this time of Jesus, what we know about his life is that the Dead Sea Scrolls talk about a community of people called the Essenes that lived outside of Jerusalem. They had separated themselves. They were Jewish, but they had separated themselves from the synagogue, the temple, because of these, what they thought as false teachers, the Sadducees and the Pharisees that were just appointees of the Roman government and were false teachers. So they separated themselves and created spiritual practices. They created their own Sabbath. And one of these they did. Now, as part of Leviticus, the Jews always advocated for practices of cleansing selves for health reasons primarily. But the Essenes took this spiritual bathing as a spiritual cleansing. And in the remains of the Essene communities that are in Israel today, there's basins where you could bathe in. And it's believed they would get up in the morning and they would work most of the day, and then they would come and they would cleanse themselves spiritually and physically to prepare for a meal, and then they would eat this meal together. They would break their fast, they would break the bread together, and they would commune together. But it's this whole idea of cleansing self. Now, even today, Jewish communities have something called a mikvah, and this is based on the ancient rituals, but it's not based on cleansing. It is a spiritual cleanse, and people who are converting to Judaism go through a mikvah, a bath, to prepare themselves, to purify themselves, to prepare to begin a new pathway. So we too can take this ritual that Jesus talked about. Oh, by the way, Jesus, that was often called the lost years of Jesus, where he left his family about 12 and was not really heard of any historical records until about 30. It's thought that some people think he might go to India. I think, and there's evidence to say that he spent this time with the Essenes, that he learned these rituals and he had spiritual teachers there until he became a master and began teaching this spiritual truths that he was taught there. And so this idea of spiritual cleansing, which is now known as baptism, was a process by John the Baptist, was one who was a baptizer who taught Jesus. John the Baptist was an Essene too. So this whole ritual of cleansing was one of baptizing, one of cleansing, that's been used for different purposes now in the Christian community, but it's still the same process by which we cleanse and purify and prepare the way for Spirit within us to let go of what no longer serves us. So I would suggest that now that we have the opportunity to create a Sabbath, that we spiritually cleanse ourselves. So guess what we're doing every day, several times a day? We're washing our hands. And this process by washing our hands can be a cleansing process, letting go, as well as when we bathe daily. We can imagine the light and love flowing over us, cleansing us, preparing us to be a vessel of Spirit, a vessel of love, to let go of unneeded anxiety or dread, and we just let that go. And we open up to Spirit in this way. The third way that we can do by following the teachings of Jesus is to affirm life. So I heard in a movie the other day, catching up on some movies, and the quote was, "Happiness can be found even in the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn on the light." Believe it or not, that came from Albus Dumbledore, because I was watching the Harry Potter series. A sacred text in and of itself, right? I've been enjoying that series. But it's true, we just need to turn on the light. And Jesus, when he gathered with his disciples in what's now called the Last Supper, he used the elements that were before him. Now, what you need to know is, from the Essene perspective, and really before that from the Jewish teachings, bread was considered life itself. When you think about this bread that was during the time of Passover was a celebration of them being exodus from the days of slavery in Egypt. And they had to leave so quickly that they left bread. They had to grab their bread, but it didn't have time to rise, so it was unleavened bread. But it was still, they would take this bread during the time of Passover and remember those days that they were able to escape from slavery. And also during this time when Moses took the people in the wilderness, God literally rained bread upon them, either symbolically or realistically, because it was life itself. And you think about their meals would have been very simple, some water or wine, and perhaps the water was even not pure anymore, so the wine was sometimes more prevalent. And so this bread was life itself, was manna. So when he took it and he said, here he is in his Last Supper. He knows he's going to die in the very next day. So he's concerned not about death, but he's concerned about life, about what he's told his disciples. And he goes, when you eat, because this is something they're going to do every day, they're going to take a piece of bread. So when you eat, remember me, remember my teachings, that it's about life. And that, so he broke the bread in the same way that the Jews have always broken bread. They break the fast. And he took some of the bread and he said, This is like my life that I've given in service to you. So when you eat bread, remember me, remember my teachings. Remember that Spirit is in this, and I am God, you are God, we are all God, and remember this. Remember life. Don't remember death, remember life. So it is with us right now that we need to remember the life, right? Not the dread of what might be or what is that's concerning us. We remember life that flows through us. So when we eat, we are grateful for Spirit. He also took the wine that was on the table, and he said, this wine is like the blood. It's the same color as blood, and not talking about what is shed. That's made up part of the story. He's talking about the blood of the new covenant. The new covenant that's talking about love. We love God with all our soul, all our body, all our strength, all our mind, all of us, and to love one another. This is the blood of the new covenant that we drink. So when you have wine, remember love. Remember this is what it's about. Drink. Remember life. And remember the new covenant. That's what Jesus said. So we too, as we sit down to eat and drink and open up to this, let this be what we remember. Remember who we are, and remember the Spirit is with us as us today. So I'm going to invite Diego up to sing a song that's just going to bring us into prayer time today.
Many pray along the way. They don't stop to wonder what the world is coming to. They let something higher reveal the way to greater love. So the truth is letting me sing of liberation for the ones who are not free. Love can take us higher, reveal the way to greater love. So we let it wash over us, we let it take us higher, we let it make us kinder, we let it be, we let it morning, we let it hold us together, we let it, now and forever, we let it be, we let it.
So this moment we do just let it be. We let the water wash over us metaphorically and cleanse us, and in opening and preparation for us, opening our heart to greater love, a universal love, to love one another, to love Spirit with all our heart, all our soul, all our mind, all our strength. And we know that we are able to accept things we cannot change, and we can have the power and the grace to change the things that we are called for in this moment. And we have the wisdom and the truth to do that. And we are just so grateful for that in this moment. And we prepare and open to a greater expression of love in all aspects of our being. And so it is.
Many cry along the way, walking through the sadness in a world that needs to know love can take us higher, reveal the way to greater love. Still the truth is telling me love's the only answer, and to all humanity we can stay inspired, reveal the way to greater love. So we let it wash over us, we let it take us higher, we let it make us kinder, we let it be, we let it early in the morning, we let it hold us together, we let it now and forever, we let it be. Let it, we let the love wash over us. We let it be. We let the joy wash over us. We let it be. We let the peace wash over us. We let it be. We let the love wash over us. We let it be. We let the love wash over us. We let it be.
Thank you, Diego. Thank you so much. I think I might watch that one when I get home again. That was beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This time in our service, we invite people to support our center, both in prayers and financial giving. We appreciate your generosity as we turn around and help those in need during this time of challenges. So we appreciate that support that we are able to give both individuals and other nonprofits as we find ways to bring the valley back into prosperity and abundance. You know, we know the prosperity and abundance is already there, right? It's just allowing this moment to pause until we can get the water flowing again. Well, the rain has fallen today, the river is flowing, and there is abundance in this valley. We know that. So just take, if you've already sent us money in the mail, that is great, but also there are Facebook giving, PayPal giving that you'll see links online there, either on our website or there on Facebook. We appreciate any giving. So whatever that is, take that to your heart, hold it in your hand, and just repeat after me. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. And so it is. All right. So we also lift our hands up to those who might be joining us for the first time. Come on up, Kristen. As well as those who are joining us in heart and spirit. And so we just raise our hands and we say, we bless you today, knowing that the peace and happiness you seek is also seeking you. We honor your inner radiance as you let your light shine in the world. We are grateful for your presence in our community, and so it is. It is you now.
I can just leave on here.
We can share it.
So I also would love for us to repeat our affirmation together today. I have one for you, so I'll say it and then you can repeat it. It's nice and short and sweet. I am the voice of love.
I am the voice of love.
I'm called to be.
I am called to be.
I am the voice of love.
I am the voice of love.
I am called to be.
I am called to be.
I am the voice of love.
I am the voice of love.
I am called to be.
I am called to be.
And so it is.
So it is.
And we also want to bless all of our wonderful, lovely children that we have at home and probably running around you right now.
Yeah. Not necessarily watching the service.
Not necessarily watching, but around. So if you want to just love up all of our
as
children.
well as those that are distant and far.
Yes, all of our global children, all of our children. We love you. We care about you. And we're here for you. And also, Janice Davis asked me to remind you about green bag announcements.
Oh, yes. So that announcement, that is just, we're not doing the green bag donations. Instead, the food bank is, they have plenty of non-perishable goods right now that we will replenish in another month. But for now, they would appreciate cash donations sent to them directly or online, because they are wanting to buy the meats and the dairy products, the perishable things for people right now, and they're still giving donations to people as well. So something else to consider there. And then, do you want to do an invitation to prayer?
Sure. Yes. So we would love to invite you to prayer. We have a new online prayer form that's exactly like the prayer form that we've had back in the foyer. I posted the link once. I'll post it again. Please go on there. That form is absolutely confidential. It only goes to myself and Rev Jay, and then we pass it on to our practitioners. And we've been doing our ministry of prayer every Tuesday morning on Zoom, and it's been really beautiful to connect and pray for y'all. So please go on, fill out that form. You can also email us still with your prayer requests like you've been doing. You can drop it in the chat if you're comfortable in doing that. You can DM us, direct message us, any way you want to get your prayer requests to us. We want to pray for you, so please do that in any way, and I'll post that link to that prayer request form again.
Yeah, and then also after the service, we're going to move to Zoom. The Zoom link should be in your post, as well as there was a text and an email sent out to you today if you're on that. So join us for that, and we'll have a little coffee and conversation after the service.
And Zoom's doing a new thing where you're going to go into a waiting room, and then we'll let you in. So just give us just a second, and we'll let you in.
This is not purgatory. You will be let in.
You will be let in.
promise.
So we just both have to get back to our computers. We have a nice little station set up for each of us back there. So we'll get back there and let y'all in.
So we'll do the community affirmation, and then Diego has a last song for us. Instead of Stand, like we've been doing in honor of Bill Withers, he's going to sing Lean on Me. So let's do the community affirmations first of all. So everybody repeat after me. Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
I am led by Spirit.
I am led by Spirit.
I am guided by wisdom.
I am guided by wisdom.
I am protected by love.
I am protected by love.
I am here to be a blessing.
I am here to be a blessing.
I am so grateful.
I'm so grateful.
And so it is.
So it is. Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, I'll be your friend, I'll help you carry on. It won't be long, I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride. If I have things you need to borrow, for no one can fill those of your needs that you won't let show. Lean on me when you're not strong, I'll be your friend, I'll help you carry on. For it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. That might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, I'll be your friend, I'll help you carry on. For it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Just call on me, sister, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. Just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Just call me when you need a friend. Call me anytime now. Call me. Call me.
Go with peace. Go with God. Thank you for joining us today. Many blessings to all. Namaste.